Hello and welcome to another episode of A Place of Safety. Today I'm in Trieste, with Arturo and Marilena to talk about services in Trieste and in Italy more broadly. So, who shall I start with? Arturo, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Arturo. I'm a person with experience of mental health, and I'm a worker in a social cooperative, which in Italy is a place that is meant to create job placement opportunities for people with, coming from the disadvantaged area.
Okay, and Marilena?
Hello everybody, my name is Marilena, I'm 36 years old, and as Arturo I am a person with experience.
Okay, so we are here to discuss how it's both to work in a setting without psychiatric hospitals, without locked doors, without restraint, and what it means to be helped by a system like this, but also not just for the good things, also for the bad things, so we can have a discussion that is open about things. So do you want to tell us a bit about Arturo, for example? I don't know how you got in touch with services, or
I went to the mental health center voluntarily. Because I was escorted by my father, and I had 18 years old. I was 18 years old at the time, and I had to face with the graduation exam at the time, and I made it.
So that's the end of high school, basically.
Yes.
There's an exam at the end.
And I had the test, the exam, during a psychotic disorder, but I passed it and succeeded at the exam with the minimum rate. But it was, I wrote during the exam that Mussolini was an asshole, and I motivated why. And my father and my mother at the time tried to understand what was happening, and finally they thought that it was a good idea to get in touch with the mental health center.
Okay.
And
so what is a mental health center? Because people might not know about this in England.
A mental health center, Trieste territory, is divided in 4 mental health centers, which have a catchment area of around 1,000 patients for each center. And it is a place which is aimed to take care of people with mental health diseases, but not around the territory, not in a place of safety, but not only in a place of safety, but in the place where people lives.
Okay, so how in Trieste, like there's maybe a bit more than 200,000 people living in the city overall, and so these 4 mental health centers cover the whole province basically overall.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people in Britain are not. Will be maybe surprised about this, but like in these mental health centers, there's beds for people to stay.
Yes, there are, but they try to not keep those people who are in care for a long time. It is a place where people can sleep when they do not have other places. But in addition to those places, to those beds, there are a lot of beds in sheltered housing, and assisted living for people who need it. At the time of my crisis, I didn't need a place where to stay because I could stay with the family, and I didn't had to be inside the center for no time.
And in Trieste, it's important to say these beds are not in these mental health centers are not in locked environments, so the doors are open. Okay, so thank you, Arturo, for this. We'll come back to this in a while. Marilena, what was your experience?
My experience was a little bit controversial. At the beginning, I had prejudice about mental health, the Center for Mental Health, and medicine. So at the beginning, I didn't recognize my problem, and I didn't want to collaborate with the doctors. And in fact, the first meeting with the doctors was a little bit difficult because they advised me to take the medicine, and I didn't want to. So I got recovered. And I got sectioned. Thank you. And for a month, and I had to stay in the center. And the center is a 2-floors house with a garden, a big garden. And I had to stay in the house, and I could stay in the garden. And during that month, I usually talk with doctors and nurses and all the operators in the center. And
So basically, you're saying you were kept in this was in Trieste.
Yes, in Trieste.
So you under the Italian law, mental health law, basically, to be sectioned, you need urgent treatment, and you need to also refuse treatment. So you're saying you were asked to take medication, and you didn't want to take medication.
Yes.
And so you were asked to stay in this mental health center.
No, because at the time, as I told you before, at the time I didn't recognize that I had a kind of mental illness, and at the time I couldn't believe that it was happening to me. So it was a compulsory
admission.
Yeah.
But the compulsory admission was, you're saying, in the mental health center.
In the mental health center.
So still in a place with open doors.
Yes, the doors were open.
Yeah.
And I could walk all around the garden and stay in the sun because it was summer. And I could talk with everyone. My family could visit me every day, and I could talk even in the evening. I could talk with nurses, and we used to talk about music, arts, and life in general. And it was for me compulsory to stay there and to take the medicine.
Yes.
But they were all kind to me.
Okay. So do you think, because there's a lot of, in psychiatric hospitals in Britain, there's a lot of restraint. There's a lot of nurses, for example, restraining patients, forcing them to take medication using violence, basically. Does that do you think that happens in mental health centers in Trieste?
No, I don't think so, because in my experience, at the beginning, I had to stay there for a month. But it was because I didn't realize that I had some kind of problem. And after that time, I gradually realized that I needed medication, and now it's been 5 years that I take my medication every day. And I still have a good relationship with all the doctors, all the nurses, because
how did it end? You said you stayed a month there.
Yes.
Why did that end? What happened?
The time they thought it was necessary for me to stay there was a month. Then the month ended, and I went to a house for women because I couldn't stay with my family. So it always in Trieste there is a house only for women. And I stayed there for 4 or 5 months, and I was free to come and go and to live like the others.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's every week under the mental health system that you need to review whether being admitted in a compulsory way, if it gets renewed. And I think it's accepting to take medication is kind of, or accepting treatment generally is kind of a key issue to stop this process. So did you accept at a certain point that you wanted medication?
Yes, and
yeah.
I during the years I understood that taking medication helps me to deal with my kind of illness. So and now I can have a normal life. I can enjoy my social life. I live on my own, and I have a job and everything.
Okay. So what I think it's important for people that are listening for Britain to know is that there are these 4 mental health centres, and what services do is they try, even in compulsory cases, to keep people in these mental health centres. But there is a small general hospital ward called SPDC.
Emergency unit.
It's an emergency unit. Yeah, okay. Where the doors are still open, though.
Yes.
In the general hospital, and that's for places where it's a place where if people can't be helped in any way in these mental health centres, they're helped there, but still in an open door place. So do you know anything about that?
Yes, because for my work I have to explain how